T-38. So I checked out in the T-38 almost 50 years ago, which is hard to believe. But what I'm going to talk about is what it was like.
Use the microphone.
Is it still on?
No, okay.
It is now. Is it on?
No.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. 1962, and I'm going to talk about what it was like as a lieutenant going to Luke to check out and then in the F-100 and then go to my assignment in Myrtle Beach and then end up in Turkey and Aviano, Italy, just within a few months of graduation. After I left Webb Air Force Base, a whole bunch of us had to go through Stead Air Force Base for survival. And it was kind of, the winter was just over, but it was colder than all heck, and you had to go through the prison camp thing and then an E&E thing through the mountains of California and all that. And so we passed all of that, and I don't recommend that experience. But anyway, we all go driving down to Luke, and we get there, and the class ahead of us, we check in, and we knew a lot of those guys, and it turned out there was 2 instructors had been killed in the training and 3 of the students. And we went, wow, this might be dangerous. And so we go in for our first briefing in academics, and here's this major standing up in front, Clyde Sykes, who was very famous if you knew Clyde. And he says, you know, welcome, and you guys better listen and study hard, or you're going to bust your ass. Okay. Then he says, okay, welcome to the 14th Squadron, which was a coyote, a green patch. And he says, you're all sneaky effing coyotes. And then he said, okay, I'm going to show you a movie. And of course, he showed us the Sabre dance at Edwards in the crash. We went, wow, we hadn't seen that either. So, also, we were checking out the F-100C that had no flaps. And the airspeed on final was 180 plus fuel. So, you know, you were smoking. And the airplane had little tires, and it had a chute. And if you didn't get the chute, you were lucky to get the thing stopped on 10,000-foot runway. But you had a hook, so maybe you could catch the last cable there. But our class, we never went in a barrier. We didn't lose an airplane. We didn't lose an instructor. And it's probably the most memorable experience, that 6 months at Luke Air Force Base. In January of '64, I had my assignment to go to Myrtle Beach. And I was a skier, so I went skiing in Colorado and all the way through. And I had a little Porsche 59 convertible D. Went across the country in that, and I hit the Myrtle Beach, and I find the squadron. I had checked into the BOQ, and I walk in the squadron, and there's this bald-headed guy behind the counter with a cigar, and I said, you know, Lieutenant Meyr, reporting, sir. He says, Meyr, where the hell have you been? We're leaving for Turkey in 2 weeks, and you're going to fly with me tomorrow. Whoa. So here we go. I trying to get my stuff together, and here I was at an F and flying a low level in South Carolina, North Carolina, going to Cherry Point Range. Well, I'd always flown out west where you could see mountains and it was clear, and I hit this low level and I started flying across South Carolina. And I didn't know where I was, and nothing but pine trees. So, but we were always taught time and distance. When the tide brought out, turn to the next heading. I did find Cherry Point, dropped some bombs, past that. He says, well, tomorrow you're going to take your tack check. So here I was, briefing the tack check. Luckily, it was the same route, going to the same range. And I had 2 Seabees chasing me, which was, you know, quite an experience. And I got, first time I'd ever briefed a mission. So past that thing, the weather was bad. I got to Cherry Point, dropped some bombs, and I wanted to come back to Myrtle Beach, but the restricted area was closed to the south. So nobody else said anything, and I said, God, how do I get back to Myrtle Beach? So I just turned my route folder upside down and flew the damn low level backwards. And we got back to Myrtle Beach, and it was raining like all hell. Finally, one of the Seabees put me on his wing, and I did my first weather, in the rain, wing landing. And when you touched down, you called shoot, and then he would pop his chute, and we rolled out. Then I get in the squadron, and I thought I was done, and then he says, well, then tomorrow, the next day, you got to take your instrument check. Oh, boy. So I had to jump in the back, which I always hated. I kind of got vertigo just pulling that hood over the back. Anyway, I passed that thing. They grabbed all the personal equipment, and I thought we were flying to Insulet. And they said, no, you're going on a C-130. Holy smokes. Noisy damn thing. So we take off to the C-130, and we landed in Maine to get some fuel. Halfway across the Atlantic, we blew one engine. The prop went out. So we went into Madrid, and they didn't have any parts. So here's the whole squadron. And we're in Madrid for about 4 days. And so that's what I bet got everybody. We're downtown. Drank a lot of sangria and everything else they had. So we finally arrived in Turkey then when they got it fixed. And of course, those guys were really teed off because we're about a week late. And they want to get home. So we get on the ground, and they were looking, okay, which flight's going to be on nuke alert first? And turned out it was my flight. So here we are, the four of us, out to the alert pad, and changing over with the other guys. And we were carrying, at that time, Mark 57s, I think, smaller bombs than some of the places, probably 70 kilotons, something like that. But anyway, we got all checked out, and said, boy, this is exciting, you know. I had a sign for the bomb and everything else, and then you get your bomb folder, and it had photos of your target area, and it had the low-level route map and the whole thing, and it had a American flag and your bloodshed, and the other thing it had was an eye patch. And I went, nobody told me about the eye patch. So, anyway, I happen to bring one here. So, here we are. I'm on nuke alert. I'm on nuke alert here in Insulet, Turkey. So, I got introduced to the alert pad, and they had a line drawn around your airplane. It was called the no-loan zone. And that meant nobody could go inside that line by yourself. And you had a crew chief that would have to meet you out there each time, and you both had to stand next to each other and take a step so that you all got in. It was a real kind of an ordeal. So I'm sitting around looking at my map, and I'm realizing, boy, I'm not going to have much fuel when I drop this bomb. And it looked like I'm going to have to bail out pretty shortly after. I'm probably 500 pounds left. So I thought, well, the lieutenant is the one that gets that mission. So I asked everybody else. They said, we all have that. It's a one-way mission. And so they said, don't worry about it, because if you have to go, it's going to be the end of the world as we know it. So that was it, my start of nuke alert. But anyway, my mission in the F-100 was they put two 450s tanks on here. You had a nuclear weapon on the center line, and you were all set. And you slept out at nuke alert. You had air policemen out there. You had all your crew chiefs, and you had the crew out there with you. And then at Insulet, they had a gate across it also, so you wouldn't sneak out with your airplane. They were all set up. Every few days, you would also run them up just to check the hydraulics and all that kind of stuff. So either the second night or afternoon on nuke alert, we got a call down, said the Turks are attacking Cyprus, if you remember that little war. And all of a sudden there's F-100s arriving there like mad, parked all over the damn place. And they said, okay, here's the call. We want you to evacuate the nuke alert pad with your F-100s. And we're going to disconnect the electrical so you can't draw it. and we want you to take off, hit a tanker in the med, and take them to Wheelus in Libya. And I went, ooh, this is really exciting, when I first. And my flight commander was almost shaking because he was leading this whole gaggle. At 3 o'clock in the morning, we had our G-suits on, we had everything ready to go, we had flight planning stuff. I had called up to the queue to get some of my valuables, so I thought, well, I'm never coming back to Italy after this. And they canceled it. So we never did launch off of Nuke Alert, but that's how close it was. And so anyway, my mission was take off, 2 450s on there. When they ran out, you punch those off. And then as you approached the Soviet border, my target was in the country of what's called Georgia now, and I had a runway there. But I had some real good checkpoints. You know, the mountain there that Noah's Ark is supposed to be sitting, okay? I just had to go by that beauty, drop down the backside, low level into Georgia, and then come around. Okay, the type of delivery that we were set up for, because at that time they didn't have nuclear weapons that you could drop straight and level with a chute on the back that would just do a lay-down delivery. Basically, we came in low level, and then we did what's called a labs, using the labs gyro, and that stands for low altitude bomb system. But we did what was called an idiot loop, or a labs